And welcome. My name is Parain Griffith, and I'm the community organizer for civics and community empowerment at the Office of the New York City Public Advocate, Jemani D. Williams. Tonight, you're going to hear, tonight is our next installment of our Now You Know series. And today's topic will be ranked choice voting. As many of you have known, have known, as many of you have know that there is the process of the census. So every 10 years, in the year ending in zero, we have the census, and then after that year ending in one, we start the redistricting process. And during that process, those federal, state, and local district lines have to be redrawn. And so now it is going to be the time for the New York City Council districts to have their elections within in the new district lines. So tonight's presentation will be given by New NYC Votes, NYC Campaign Finance Board. You will hear from Turquoise Baker and also Ali Swadek. And I would like to first thank our partners, APA Voice, Educated Voter, the NAACP Metropolitan Council of Branches that covers the 5 boroughs, NELEO Educational Fund, South Asian Fund for Education, Scholarship, and Training, Smart Elections, and Smart Legislation. And I would like to thank you again for joining us for this very important topic. So, Ms. Turquoise Baker, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
All right, so let's start the show. Let's talk about ranked choice voting.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Frain. I just want to make sure, can folks see the presentation? Do I need to? Okay, wonderful. There we go. Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. I hope you are doing well. My name is Turquoise Baker, and I am the Intergovernmental Analyst at the New York City Campaign Finance Board, or CFB. I'm here with my colleague Ali Swadek, who is the Director of Policy and Research, and today we'll be giving a presentation on ranked choice voting in New York City, which will be used in the City Council primary. We'd like to give a big thank you to Ferenc Griffith and Jumani Williams and everyone at the Public Advocate's Office for giving us this opportunity to present this evening. So, what is the CFB? Well, the Campaign Finance Board is the independent city agency that empowers New Yorkers to make a greater impact on their elections. Our agency has two major responsibilities. The first is educating the public about New York City elections. We do this through New York City Votes, which is an initiative of the Campaign Finance Board. So we produce the voter guide, which you should hopefully all be receiving soon, and other voter materials about ranked choice voting and general voter education. The second responsibility is administering the city's campaign finance program. So, a few things I'd just like to cover our agenda for today. We'll talk about what ranked choice voting is, ranked choice voting in New York City specifically. We'll talk about how ranked choice voting benefits voters, steps for marking your ballots and the counting process, frequently asked questions, and finally, a little bit of practice for ranked choice voting. All right, so let's get into it. So very quickly, I'd like to get something out of the way. There are several races on the June primary ballot. However, the only race that will be using ranked choice voting is the city council race. Now, ranked choice voting is a way for voters to elect their representatives. Voters can rank up to 5 candidates, but they can also just choose one. Votes are calculated in rounds, and the winner with the most votes in the final round wins. Ranked choice voting has several benefits, which we'll talk about in later detail later on in this presentation. But for example, it gives voters more say in who wins an election. It also incentivizes candidates to spend less time attacking their opponents and more time reaching out to their communities. Now, ranked choice voting is actually pretty widespread throughout the United States. Typically, it's used in cities around the nation, but Maine and Alaska are states that use ranked choice voting as well. According to Fair Vote, as of December 22nd, at least 64 U.S. jurisdictions, including San Francisco, Minneapolis, and Santa Fe, use ranked choice voting. And that number is steadily increasing. For example, in March 8th, voters in some parts of California and Vermont actually voted to adopt or expand ranked choice voting use in their elections. And also, folks who run the Academy Awards, the Oscars, also use ranked choice voting to select the winners for those events. Now, let's talk about ranked choice voting in New York City specifically. So, in 2019, New Yorkers approved a ballot measure that authorized the use of ranked choice voting in New York City, and it passed with 73.5% support. Ranked choice voting exists in New York City because voters chose it, not candidates or special interests. Now, this is the second year with ranked choice voting. As some of you may remember, it was used in the 2021 primary and special elections. Now, this statistic is taken from our 2021-2022 voter analysis report on how many voters used ranked choice voting. Many New Yorkers took advantage of ranked choice voting in the 2021 primary. About 88.3% ranked more than one unique candidate in one race, and only 11.7% didn't rank anything on their ballots. Broken out by political party, this is about 89.3% of Democrats and 56.6% of Republicans. And this is a pretty exceptional statistic that illustrates that New Yorkers were enthusiastic about this new method of voting in 2021. Now, here's a bit of a cheat sheet for ranked choice voting in New York City. So, when is ranked choice voting used and for which races? Ranked choice voting is used in special and primary New York City elections. It is only used for select city offices. That's mayor, public advocate, comptroller, borough president, and city council. It is not used in any general elections. It is not used for any federal or state races. It is not used in other local races like DA or district attorney or any judgeships. And this is, really, really important to know because some ballots for this upcoming primary will have ranked choice voting and single choice elections. So it's really important when you're at, the polling place or filling out your absentee ballot to look on both sides of the ballot to make sure that you voted for everything that you can. So, how did we vote before ranked choice voting? Now, typically, voters will choose one candidate for each office, and the candidate with the most votes will win. However, the winner doesn't necessarily have to receive a majority of the vote. Also, for runoff elections, if no candidate received more than 40% of the vote for mayor and PA and comptroller, then a runoff election took place. But now, because we have ranked choice voting, we'll no longer have those runoff elections. So, how does ranked choice voting benefit voters? Now, just to be clear here, I'm not here to, necessarily advocate for ranked choice voting. Those who advocated for ranked choice voting use these points to talk about the process. I'm not trying to persuade you to like it, but this information may help you educate voters and folks in your community about ranked choice voting and help folks understand the laws that govern it a lot better. So here is the list of benefits right here. First, voters will have more say in who gets elected. Candidates are more likely to appeal to voters instead of attacking each other, and voters will elect more diverse and representative candidates. So here's the first point: voters get more say in who gets elected. So even if your top choice does not win, you can still help decide who wins. So voters can choose their favorite candidate first, second favorite second, third favorite third, etc. And this point is really important to emphasize for voters. Ranking other candidates does not harm your first choice. Your second choice will only count if your first choice is eliminated. Furthermore, people can vote for their top choice without worrying about the winner. A common misconception about ranked choice voting is that there is a way to kind of game the system, but that's not really the case. Voters can simply rank whatever candidates they'd like to and rely on the ranked choice voting system to work for itself. Now, second, candidates are more likely to appeal to voters instead of attacking each other. Now, since the winner of an election is not necessarily the person with the most first choice votes, candidates will want to get your second, your third, your fourth, or even your fifth choice votes. So candidates can't just rely on the support from their key base to win. A few more things on this point. Negative campaigning can make voters less interested in a race. So, voters perceived a reduction in negative campaigning for ranked choice voter or ranked choice voting elections in other jurisdictions. And there are also cases where candidates with similar platforms where they have endorsed one another, which you typically don't see in regular elections. And last, we have point three. Voters elect more diverse and representative candidates. So, as I mentioned early on, San Francisco is one of the 64 US jurisdictions that use ranked choice voting. And in those ranked choice voting elections, there was an increase in the candidates of color running for office, an increase in the probability of women candidates and women candidates of color winning elections. And also, candidates of color won 62% of ranked choice voting races compared to 38% before the switch to ranked choice voting. As an extension of the previous slide, we see that elected officials are more representative of the municipalities that they serve. And this includes gender representation, cultural and racial representation, transgender folk, people with various gender identities, and more. So, yeah, voters get more say in who gets elected again. And if a voter's first choice isn't elected, if they rank other candidates, their vote will still play a role in determining the winner. And yes, we get the candidates are more likely to appeal to voters as well. So let's now move on into the steps for marking your ballots. Now, the images you see here are obviously for illustrative use. We have a picture of a sample ballot in an upcoming slide. But first, voters should pick their first choice candidate on the left and fill in the oval in the first column. Columns will be labeled at the top of each column. You can see first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. And voters can fill the circle, their second choice candidate in the second column, and so on. Voters can rank up to 5 candidates. However, they can rank 4, 3, 2, or 1 if they choose to do so. There are a few things to look out for in this process. Voters should make sure that they only fill one circle in for each column. Giving multiple candidates the same rank will invalidate your ballot if you make this error on your first choice. Additionally, voters should not rank more than one candidate or one candidate more than once, excuse me. There is no benefit of doing this at all. If voters rank a candidate more than once, only the highest ranking candidate will count, and the voters won't reap the full benefits of the ranked choice voting process. In other words, voters should fill in one circle per column and one circle per row. So right here is a sample ballot of a Council District 11 race in a 2021 special election. So as you can see, the names on the left and the columns are on the right, each labeled with the choice numbers. There will also be an option for a writing candidate, which you can see at the bottom of your screen. Now, how are votes tallied? As a quick note, the New York City Votes website has a great interactive resource for voters to get a better understanding of how votes are counted. So you can practice voting for purple, blue, green, yellow, orange, and pink, and kind of figure out what errors you might make and avoid those when you get to the actual polls. So let's explain how this works. On the y-axis, going up and down, we see that there are different candidates: purple, blue, green, yellow, orange, and pink. On the x-axis, running at the bottom of your screen, there are percentages. The percentages represent what percentage of the total votes a candidate has in a given round. To win a ranked choice voting election, a candidate must receive more than 50% of the vote. There is a vertical line running right through the 50% mark. It's a little faint, it's gray. Um, That'll make it a little easier to visualize when we reach that point of 50%. We'll walk this through a bit like a class, so I'll be speaking a lot, but we want to make sure everyone is on the same page. And we'll have time for questions, at the end of the presentation. So feel free to ask, and we can definitely clarify anything that you might have missed throughout this walkthrough. All right, so let's get to it. Round one. So in this election, we have 100 people who voted. All of the first choice votes are counted in round one. In this situation, none of the candidates have received a majority of the votes. And we can also see that yellow has received the least amount of votes. Now, moving into round two, we know that the candidate with the fewest votes is yellow. That candidate has been eliminated. The second choice for all the candidates that voted for yellow will be distributed to the other candidates. So as we can see here, there are 5 people who voted for yellow as their first choice. Of those 5 people, 2 voted for purple as their second choice, 1 voted for blue as their second choice, and 2 voted for orange as their second choice. This leaves orange in first place, like before, with 32 votes. Green is now in last place with 10 votes. Round three. So as was the case with yellow when they were in last place, green is eliminated since it is now in last place. The 10 votes for green move to the next highest remaining choice on a voter's ballot. So purple, blue, orange, and pink get votes. Orange, with 35 votes, is still in first place, but pink is now in last place with just 16 votes. Round four. We have the same exact process. Pink is in last place, so their 16 votes are distributed to the next highest remaining choice on a voter's ballot. Now, to be absolutely clear on what that means, there are some voters whose second choice was pink. Since pink was eliminated, their vote will be distributed to their third choice. However, for voters whose first choice was pink, their vote will be distributed to their second choice. Now, at the end of this round, purple is in the lead with 46 votes. Orange is in second place with 37 votes, and blue is in last place with 17 votes. Round five. Blue was eliminated because it was in last place, so the 17 votes for blue moved to the next highest remaining choice on each ballot. And now we see that the purple candidate here has 52 votes, while orange has 48 votes. So since the purple candidate has a majority of the votes, the orange candidate is declared the winner. So now we'll take a moment to cover frequently asked questions and resources that you and folks in your community can use to better understand the process. And now, this is my part where I step back, and I'll turn it over to, my colleague to discuss the rest of this presentation.
Thank you so much, Turquoise, for that great first half of presentation. Now we will continue the presentation with Allie Swadek. Thank you for joining us, Allie.
Hi, Farine. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. As Turquoise and Farine have mentioned, I'm Ali Swadek. I'm the Director of Policy and Research at the New York City Campaign Finance Board. I know that you're all probably a little overwhelmed by the amount of information you've received in this presentation. So we're going to go through some frequently asked questions that we get from voters directly. Next slide, please, Turquoise. So, the most popular question that we get is, can I still vote for just one candidate? And the answer is really simple. Yes, you can. If you want to, you can still vote for just your first choice candidate. I always say ranked choice voting, it has choice in the name. If you don't want to rank your whole ballot, that's up to you. So, you can vote for one candidate if you want, or two, or three. You don't have to rank your whole ballot. Rank only the folks who are running who you think would make a good elected official. That's kind of the part that's really empowering about ranked choice voting. The one thing that we do want to let you know and remind you is that ranking other candidates will never harm your first choice, because your vote will never move unless your first choice candidate is eliminated. So that's something to remember. The next question is pretty similar. Do I have to rank a total of 5 candidates? No, you don't. It's very similar to what we just answered. You can rank up to 5, but you do not have to. Next slide, please. Does ranking 5 candidates mean I have 5 votes? I saw a similar question kind of in the comments, so I think this is a really important question. The answer is no. Your vote only counts for the highest active candidate on your ballot. Your vote will only count for your second choice if your first choice is eliminated, and so on. You also only ever have one active vote on your ballot. So it's not like your vote is counting twice because you voted for two candidates, a first choice and a second choice. It's that your vote stays with your first choice until your first choice is eliminated and only moves to your second choice if that happens. Um, where can I find the official election results? So, the New York City Board of Elections will share unofficial election results after polls close on election day because that's required by the law. But after they receive all ballots, including absentee ballots, they'll finish counting those and release certified final results. The reason why we like to highlight this is that the publication of election night votes may not match what we see in the final certified results because not every ballot has been received. And that's not unique to ranked choice voting. It's just that you need to have received every ballot in order to run through that counting process, as I'm sure you all can understand. The second question, will the voting machine tell me if I made a mistake on my ballot? Yes, this is the cool part about going to vote in person. If you, the voting machine will let you know if you give multiple candidates the same rank. That's, as Turquoise mentioned, a ballot error that would um, confuse the scanner enough that they wouldn't be able to read, that it wouldn't be able to read your ballot. So the cool part about voting in person is it'll tell you you made that mistake. It'll ask you if you want a new ballot. The poll worker who is there will assist you in getting a new ballot if you want one to fill out your ballot correctly. Next slide, please. So we have some super, super high level main takeaways for you. You can rank up to 5 candidates, but you do not need to rank a total of 5. You want to rank only one candidate in each numbered column. You do not want to rank the same candidate more than once. Your ballot may also have contests on both sides, so remember to flip over your ballot. Ranked choice voting appears separate from single choice contests, and every ballot is different because we have lots and lots of election districts in New York City. So there's lots of diversity of folks who are running for offices. There's lots of things on the ballot in different places. You always want to make sure you flip your ballot, and if in some cases you may even be given multiple pages of ballot too. Last but not least, most important, remember you can always ask a poll worker for another ballot or for assistance if you have questions. This is something that folks may not realize they can do because sometimes when you get into a poll site, you're thinking, I need to vote privately, but poll workers are there to help you if you have questions. Next slide. Okay, so next we're going to go through the ways that you can practice ranked choice voting on your own time. We have a fantastic website at www.nycvotes.org, and we have a practice ballot. We can post the link to that also in the chat so folks have access to it. But if you go to our website, you will immediately see all our incredible ranked choice voting resources that are available not only in English, but 12 other languages that are most commonly used in the city. Next slide, please. We also want to make sure that while we're here talking about ranked choice voting, we also remind you about really important election dates. So the first most important date is Monday, June 12th, the absentee ballot request deadline. Um, it's great that we can now request an absentee ballot online. And if you go to our website, we link out to the Board of Elections site that allows you to do that. And the last day that you need to do that is June 12th. Saturday, June 17th is the voter registration deadline. It's also the first day of early voting, which goes until Sunday, June 25th. Tuesday, June 27th is the deadline to submit an absentee ballot in person or by mail. So you want to make sure that your ballot is postmarked or in the mail by that date, or you can always actually drop off your ballot at any poll site in the city. So that's something that's really cool and a recent um, a recent development that's very exciting. And then, of course, that same deadline is primary election day, which is Tuesday, June 27th. Next slide. So we also have some really cool resources beyond ranked choice voting. So for those of you who may not know, you can use what's called a ballot marking device, which is a machine that's available at every poll site that can assist you in filling out your ballot. Um, those ballots are available over audio, so it'll be read to you. There's braille keypads, high contrast screens, a rocker paddle, and also a sip and puff device for folks that cover a wide variety of accessibility needs. But anyone can use a ballot marking device. You do not have to give a reason when seeking to use one. You can also bring someone to help you vote so long as they're not affiliated with your employer or labor union, which is a very weird specification, but that's actually in the law. So we want to make sure to share that with you. If you need an accessible absentee ballot, you can request one through the Board of Elections through the same website that you request a absentee ballot that you'd receive through the mail. So it's at nycabsentee.com. Next slide, please. As far as language access, by law, New York City ballots and other voting materials are translated into what we call the Federal Voting Rights Act languages. Those are Bengali, Chinese, Korean, and Spanish. But it's only at certain poll sites based on, as Farine mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, local census data, which is why the census is so important for almost everything. In addition, interpreters are available at some poll sites to provide assistance in these languages. There's also additional access for folks who speak other languages provided by the Civic Engagement Commission. You can see which poll sites they're supporting by going to their website. If you need language assistance at a poll site, you can also bring your own interpreter. So that's a very cool a right that you have as a voter. And again, if you get asked questions, you can always ask a poll worker, just tell them that that's your interpreter. And then last but not least, you can request to use a ballot marking device with audio that can help you in Chinese, Bengali, Spanish, and Korean at poll sites that offer those language supports. Next slide, please. I've already mentioned this. You can learn more about ranked choice voting at our website, which is www.nycvotes.org. But you can also access other cool things on this site, such as our online voter guide and video voter guide. You may be asking, what is the voter guide? The voter guide is an incredible resource for provided to every single New York City voter that provides a profile of every candidate running for city office. I always say every, but it does depend on whether they reply to us because it's the way that the candidate wants to present themselves in their own words. So it's also going to be mailed to every single voter at their house who is registered. Next slide, please. We have an amazing ranked choice voting video explainer for those of you who do not have the about 35 minutes that our presentation lasts of time to learn about ranked choice voting. We have a very succinct 2-minute explainer video in English, Spanish, Chinese, Korean, and Bengali. But it will also be available soon in those other languages that I've mentioned several times now on our website, which we're really excited about. Next slide, please. Also available on our website is the online voter guide, as I mentioned. You can register to vote there. There's a link out to a really incredible resource by the Board of Elections called the Poll Site Locator. This provides you with not only your poll site, but also a sample ballot for you to look at to make sure, first of all, that you have a primary election to go vote in, and also to be able to see what's on your ballot, which offices are up for election in this June primary. If you're not sure if you're registered, you can also access the voter lookup using the link available on our website and also the Board of Elections site. Next slide, please. Last but not least, if you want to always be connected to NYC Votes and the work of the Campaign Finance Board, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook at NYCVOTES. And if you also want us to come and present at your community event or come and provide materials that help get out the vote, you can request a presentation from us. We'll have our email addresses at the end of this presentation, and we're more than happy to have folks reach out. You can also volunteer to text at our text banking events or show up and table at different events to get out the vote. And again, that's available at our website, nycvotes.org. Next slide. Okay, if you would like to reach out to us personally, Turquoise and I are welcome for any questions that folks may have after the fact. Maybe you're thinking about ranked choice voting a little bit later and you still have a question that's nagging you. So please feel free to reach out to Turquoise at tbaker@nyccfb.info or myself at aswatek@nyccfb.info. And we're really happy to be here, and we're more than happy to answer any questions that you want to post in the chat box of whatever social media that you are streaming this on. I saw that there was a question earlier and I felt like it was a really good one. So I would love to answer that one first too.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you so much, Ali, for that great presentation, that second half. So we have, that was a great, no, it was a great information. I hope people are really paying attention. And you know what my favorite part, I know this is the whole thing on ranked choice voting, but my favorite part is the voter guide. How important the voter guide is. People, they check their mailbox, they get it in the mail, and then they toss it on the side. And then they want to know, hey, how come I didn't know about this? Hey, I didn't know about this candidate. Who's running on first? Who's on second? What do I do? When do I go? Everything that you need, ladies and gentlemen, is in the voter guide. Please do not discard it when you open your mailbox. It's in multiple languages. It also, what year was that? That was in 2021. It gave you your voting record in the front. It had on the front, it gave you your voting record. It let you know how many which elections took place and if you voted in them. Primary, special, general. I mean, it's a really helpful tool, and I'd like to promote it a lot because it has all of the information that New York City voters will need to to cast their vote. You know, what's the hashtag? Know before you go. So we want to make sure that our New York City residents are ready, prepared, and able to vote. So we're going to go with the first question. Um, this question is from, there was a question from Bob, and it says, how many votes does my first choice get? And how many votes does my second choice get? And my third get how many points? Is it one, a half, or a third for the first?
I love this question, Bob, and the answer is a lot simpler than hopefully you now understand after Turquoise went through the counting process that you never have a fractional vote ever. You don't have to think about math that hard when you're marking your ballot. You always only have your one vote, of course. So your vote moves. It never splits, it's never duplicated, there's no points that are distributed to any of the candidates. The way it works is if your vote lives with your first choice candidate until your first choice candidate doesn't win, comes in last place in a round, and then that's when your vote is distributed to your second choice, and so on. So you never have to worry or think about fractions when you're marking your ballot. Just think in your head, who's my favorite candidate? I'm going to mark them first. who's my second favorite candidate, I'm going to mark them second, and so on. It's much simpler than that. But that was a
Okay.
really great question.
Well, it really was. I know, Bob, you posted at the beginning, but we wanted to wait to the Q&A segment to answer it. So I hope you got the answer that you were looking for. Okay, we have another question here from Victor Pete. And Victor's question is, are there any plans to ensure that the pretrial detainees who are registered or will be on Rikers Island also are educated on this process and will be voting using their absentee ballot?
This is a great question. I feel like Turquoise can chime in if I'm misrepresenting this, but we actually do a lot of work with the Department of Corrections to ensure that folks at Rikers and at other places that are managed by the Department of Corrections have the knowledge necessary to request an absentee ballot. I know that they do tremendous work at the Department of Corrections to also make sure that folks receive their ballots and then are able to vote them by dropping them off at the Board of Elections offices. So the answer is yes. Obviously, an operation like that is highly complex, honestly,
Mhm.
but we do a lot of work with them in order to make sure that happens.
Yeah, and I can add to that as well. So the DOC is one of what we call LO29 agencies, which are agencies that are required to distribute New York City votes materials. So we do send them ranked choice voting and general election materials that they can distribute with, folks who are, in the justice system right now, and others who are, somewhat, affiliated or, in alignment with the DOC as well. So we do make sure information gets to them. But as Ali said, it is a rather complex system.
Okay. Um, we have a few questions here. Okay, so this is another question. If someone registered before June 17th, which is the new deadline, um, but after February 14th, which is the deadline to change your political party, and registered with a political party, can this person vote in this June primary on a regular ballot, or would it be an affidavit?
I will take your
It's
answer.
good
I feel
question. Lots of
I feel like
layers.
I feel like I'm doing math now. So it sounds like this person has already been registered to vote and they were not registered. Either they weren't registered to a political party at all, or they were registered to a different political party than the one that they would like to vote in June. And the answer to this is no. We have a party change deadline that is different from the voter registration deadline. So this voter is obviously very informed. They know that the party change deadline is Valentine's Day. That's interestingly in the law. It's February 14th every year. And if you are a voter who's currently registered and you want to change your political party in order to vote in the June primary for that party, you have to do so before that party change deadline in February. If you are a brand new voter who is registering for the first time in New York, whether because you just turned 18 years old or you have not been registered for any other reason, you moved here recently, etc., you can register up until the June 17th deadline and vote in that party primary for the political party you select and on your registration. Hopefully that made sense. Our election law is highly complex.
I know. Welcome to the North South.
It, keep,
Welcome
it,
to the
keep,
North South.
it keeps us a job. It keeps us in our work frame.
Let's see. We have another question here. Oh, I wanted to thank you, Kathy Collins. She posted the voter guide is also online. It's portable on your cell phone. Thank you, Kathy.
Yes.
You can take your voter guide with you if you receive the print version to your
Hmm.
poll site, but also you can look it up on your phone. You just can't take photos in your poll site.
Hmm.
Okay. And then we have a question. Okay, Lulu is one of our partners here. We have a question. Will the new yes, We love Lulu, right? Hey, Lulu. Will the New York City Board of Election release the cast vote record as they did last time? That enables people to check that the rounds are counted correctly.
Um, by law, the Board of Elections is required to post a cast vote record, so the answer is yes, because they follow the law. It is a very complex set of files because of the way that it's spit out. But yes, and we, like we did in 2021, the Campaign Finance Board publishes a annual voter analysis report. We will be doing the same type of analysis that we did in 2021 in 2023 to show the rates of ballot errors and what places in the city were most likely to rank and very interesting things like that using the cast vote record. So we're very thankful that they publish it.
Okay, and yes, right there. I mean, we know there was a little hiccup in 2021, but that was the first time. So thank you for that, Lulu. We want to make sure that everything is going to run smoothly. The media jumps on every single thing, so we want to make sure that it's running
Yeah.
smoothly.
Yes,
Um,
voting is a very hot topic right now. So
yes.
everyone's on high alert.
Um, and then we have here. Okay, so the person that asked about the dates for the party change and the last day to register, they actually said thank you. So that you did answer it.
Oh,
They did once you mentioned the new voter, so that was the answer. So we're glad that we were able to answer. It was H. Lee, and then okay, I think that's. I think that's it for questions. Well, if you have questions, post them in the comment section so we can answer. We have a few minutes left. Let's see here.
Oh, I'm seeing a follow-up question from Bob at 728 about if there are only 3 people running and I give votes. Sorry, I'm
oh, I
now
see.
I'm facilitating the questions.
No, no, no. Fine. I mean, it's
If there are only 3 people running and I give votes to each one, how would my third choice get my vote or points? Turquoise, you want to answer?
I love the word problem of this question. So if there are only
Yeah.
3 people running and I give votes to each one, how would my third choice get my vote or points? Well, it depends on, who has the most votes at the end of the first round. So, say you rank your third choice last, and the person with the most votes is the person in the first slot, then, the votes will be continued to count until there are only 2 people. And that's kind of a weird thing about New York City's ranked choice voting law is that even if someone gets 50% or more than 50% in the first round of counting, things keep on going until the very, very end. And that helps, people who are involved in the election space know, how people actually voted. And it helps, voters themselves know, who won by how much. So if, there are only 3 people running and your third choice gets the vote, well, I guess it'll just end up however it would. I don't know, Ali. I feel like I'm running in circles, but I'm not sure if my point is getting across.
We forgot about the very exciting existence of a write-in candidacy.
Ah,
So
yes, that is true. There's always something else. There's always something else.
don't forget, if there's 3 people running, you actually have the ability to rank 4 choices because you always have the ability to write in a candidate as well. So it could theoretically get to your third choice if maybe there's a really strong write-in candidacy campaign. It's very, I don't think I've ever seen it in New York City. I believe they do that in Alaska, though.
Yeah,
So it's possible, but it's probably exceedingly rare that it would happen that your vote would end up with your third choice,
yeah,
unless your third choice was the hugely popular candidate. So
yes.
Oh, wait,
Really
so
good question, though. Keeps us on our toes.
it's a word problem.
and if someone gets want to make sure that we're clear. So if someone gets the majority, there it doesn't go to the rounds. So the majority is 50 plus the one.
In
Not
the first,
51%, it's 50 plus one. So we want to make sure that the voters are aware that if a candidate in the first round reaches 50 plus one vote, then it does not go to the rounds because they won in the
Correct.
first round. We just
And
want to
Right.
make sure.
we love this because we're getting this. I love when this happens because sometimes I joke that I'm like a mathematics teacher when I get to explaining ranked choice voting at this level. It's like, think about it. If it's over 50%, then that means that the combination of all of the other votes could never be higher because 100% is the maximum. Makes you have to put on your math hat from like 5th grade sometimes.
Right, we're just people. We want to make sure. I mean,
Yeah.
you do have a choice, but we want to make sure that all New York City voters know that they have a choice of choosing just one of the 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 candidates, or they can choose up to 5 of those 3, 5, 10, 15 candidates that's in that particular race. Um, if can you ladies, I know that we all mentioned at the top of the presentation that this primary for the New York City Council members is due to the census and the redistricting. Now we know there's 51 council districts. Now, will every single council district have a contest?
Great question. No, not every single council district will necessarily have a primary election contest. So this is one reason why we say it's super, super important for voters not only to, check what's on their ballot, know before you go, love that frame, by, looking at New York City votes, but also, looking at the Board of Elections website to see, where your poll site is and which races you might be able to vote for. It really is on a case by case basis. So we can't definitively say right now, looking at a list, which city council members will or will not be on the ballot. But we certainly encourage folks to, do their own research and make sure they know before they get to the polls. But I will flag as well that just because you don't have a city council primary does not necessarily mean there won't be something happening in the general election. So it's really important to stay engaged and informed about who will be on your ballots throughout the entirety of the year.
Yes, and as we know, the Bronx actually has the district attorney's race on there. So for everyone living in the Bronx, you will have an election. So because
Absolutely.
a borough wide, that's a state position, not under ranked choice voting, as
Mhm.
you eloquently mentioned turquoise at the beginning of the presentation. But we want to make sure that everyone in the Bronx is aware that you should be coming out to vote either on or before Tuesday, June 27th. Either you're going to vote during early voting, that's Saturday, June 17th through Sunday, through Sunday, June 25th. I'm so sorry about that. And we want to make sure that the Bronx, everybody needs to, they should be coming out to vote. That is
Right.
for the entire borough. And then, as you just mentioned, select council districts will have a primary. I just wanted to highlight that. And then there's also judges on the ballot.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
also have civil court judges on the ballot. And so we want to make sure that people are aware of that as well. Like you definitely should know before you go. And Turbo Vote, we all use Turbo Vote. If you go onto Turbo Vote, and you can find out when you're going to have a primary where you can find your polling site. So we want to just shout them out because we all use them, and then we want to also shout out, excuse me, NYC votes .com, no org, excuse me, no you're .com. Oops,
We are .org.
Org. Yes.
I really messed that one up, but yes, so I
It was
just
a
wanted to
recent change. Make you feel
okay.
better.
So I just wanted to make sure I highlighted that. And
Mhm.
again, the voter guide. Let me see if there's another question on here. And the people. Um, uh, okay, I think. Oh, we have a comment. We also love the public comment that campaign finance holds. So thank you. Says very respectful to the voters to have a public comment period after each election, whether it's a primary or the general and the special. So shout out to the VAC team, the voter. That's the
Yep.
voter assist. Advisory Council. So we make sure that people are aware of these things. These are public meetings where you can share your experience when you went to vote or while you were working as a poll worker. It's not just for voters, it's also for those who work at the polling sites. And I just wanted to just highlight a few things. Oh, the question: are the judges also in the voting guide, in the voter guide?
Great question. So the voter guides do list which races will be on your ballot. I will say though that whether or not a candidate tells us that they want to have their profile included in the voter guide is up to the candidate. So if someone is running for judgeship or another position and they don't tell us what they'd like to include, we don't write anything on their behalf because we respect the candidate's, choice to, send stuff to us. But you can find all the information about who and what positions will be on your ballot in the voter guide online and printed.
I think I think I think our voters are ready. What do y'all think? I think the voters in New York City, I think they're ready. I
I
think
think
the
so too.
voters I think the voters in New York City, I think you're ready. I think you're ready. I think you're ready for
We've had a
ranked choice
lot of
voting.
elections, and
Mhm.
this is another year of them. So
Absolutely. And with
they're
the
ready.
voter guide, they'll be super ready.
Yes.
Yes.
Look out for the voter
I
guide. Should be hitting your mailboxes within the next few weeks, which is very exciting.
Absolutely.
again, do not throw the voter guide out. It has all the information you need. It's the little book. It's not a little booklet. It's the booklet that comes in the mail that you toss to the side. I've been on several panel discussions where someone is like, "Well, I didn't know. Oh, I thought that was garbage," and they said it. Well, I toss it to the toss it in the garbage. But we're here, the three of us. We're here letting you know that that voter guide has all of the information you need. Know before you go. So I want to close us out. I want to thank you both, Ali Swadek and Turquoise Baker, and the whole team at NYC, at New York City Campaign Finance Board, NYC Votes. I want to highlight our partners. I want to thank our partners for helping get the word out. We want to thank APA Voice, Educated Voter, NAACP Metropolitan Council of Branches. Those are the branches that's within the 5 boroughs. NALEO Education Fund, South Asian Fund for Education, Scholarship, and Training, Smart Elections, Smart Legislation. And thank you again to both of you. This was very, very informative. So we know we have city council on the ballot, we have judges on the ballot, and then the borough of the Bronx, they have the Bronx District Attorney's race on the ballot. Know before you go.
Check your
You can
ballot,
check your
find your
ballot.
full fate.
Mhm. Yes.
Um, so let me just check. Okay, someone just asked if you label your. Oh, so this question is if you label your I'm sorry, this is one last question I
Oh,
see.
I'm thinking. Okay.
If you label your first choice in blue, your second choice is orange, and your third choice is blue, what happens?
So
Yeah.
That's a
Oh,
very good question.
so you can do that, but you do not want to. So the only way that so your first choice being blue, you're good. Your second choice being orange, great job. Your third choice being blue basically just means that the only way that your vote is going to move to your second choice anyway is if blue is eliminated. So what that's essentially saying is if blue's eliminated, it moves to orange. Your vote once orange is eliminated can't go back to blue because that one's already eliminated. So you would then kind of not be able to use your vote as much as you would if you marked it individually for a different color for every choice. So that's something that when you're looking at your ballot, you want to make sure you're only voting for each candidate in one of the columns for one of the choices.
Right. So if they voted for blue twice.
It doesn't disqualify your ballot. It still counts. It doesn't mean that your vote won't be counted in any way. It's just you're not fully expressing your ballot and taking full advantage of ranked choice voting. But again, if you would like to only vote for two candidates, that's up to you.
But so when the rounds, if this was a race that had uh, that did not reach the 50 plus one percent in the first round,
Mhm.
with this voter putting in the first choice as blue, the second as orange, and the third as blue. So then they are ranking one candidate in two different slots. So if that candidate blue gets disqualified, eliminated, excuse me, not disqualified, eliminated, if they get eliminated in the rounds, so you would only have one candidate left, would be candidate orange.
Yeah,
Yes,
If
basically.
agree.
once the candidate is eliminated, they are eliminated off your ballot entirely. Like
Yeah,
they're
I
off
mean,
the ballot.
best case scenario, blue stays in the game the whole time through all of the rounds, and then this person's double marking never actually becomes an issue at all because their vote always stays with their first choice unless their first choice is eliminated. So this vote is definitely going to, this ballot would definitely count and it would not be disqualified. But again, it's not taking full advantage of ranked choice voting.
We want to shout out, yes, one of the partners, right? Educated Voter. You can always find out resources at educatedvoter.net/New York resources, which they post. Educated Voter post a lot of um, the NYC votes posting and information as well. So definitely want to highlight our partner, Educated Voter. Just drop that in the chat. Everything is, don't forget, you can reach us at Get Help, the Office of the New York City Public Advocate. You can reach us at Get Help at advocate.nyc.or .gov. Oh my gosh. Again, that's Get Help at advocate.nyc.gov. And then you can reach Allie or Turquoise, or any information you're looking for. You can always go to nycvote.org. So I just wanted to highlight that again. And thank you, ladies, so much. And then we're going to end on the live. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Lorraine Griffith, and I am the community organizer for civics and community empowerment at the Office of the New York City Public Advocate. And this is my motto that I live by every day. Civic engagement is community engagement.
Mm.
And I want you all to have a great evening.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.